So we're here for a Monday morning edition of the Vandy program, and the um, the crazy thing about this conversation is that the gentleman that I'll introduce you to in a few moments and I met 30 some odd years ago, which is longer than either of us will care to admit. And part of the reason we reconnected was a month or so ago. I had somebody named Lauren Beasley on the show, and then I get this Facebook message that says, "Hey, wait a minute, I know you." And my response was, "Hey, wait a minute, I know you." So the I know you that we're talking to today is sports writer, senior writer for the rebelwalk.com, covering Ole Miss sports, all around wonderful chap. We're going to chat right now with Steve Barnes. Steve, how are you?
Send me the link that she was on your show. I said, Vanda Wally, I know that name. Wait a second, Vandy? From Chicago State? Who came to Troy that time?
Yeah, there's a story here, and the funny thing is that over Steve's head is a sign that says beach, and he's based in Pensacola. He is near a beach. But one of the chaps that I chatted with in April, right around the Final Four, is a friend of mine named Jerry Beach, who is one of about five people in the country who remembers the East Coast Conference, which is how Steve Barnes and I met. Jerry is a Hofstra diehard, and Hofstra for
Flying
one,
Dutchman.
yeah, for one crazy season, the East Coast Conference. This was before conferences did the thing where they didn't really care what was in their name; they just got teams from anywhere. Um, so the East Coast Conference had Chicago State and Northeastern Illinois in Chicagoland. It had Hofstra. It had Central Connecticut State from the
Buffalo, I
Northeast.
think, was there.
What's that?
I think the University of Buffalo was there.
The university, I think they were known then as the University at
At
Buffalo. Yes.
Ted Wasco was their guy.
Ted was their the sports information guy. And then the sixth of the crazy group of six was Troy State University, which is now known as Troy, in Troy, Alabama. And Steve was part of the sports information team there. So let's fast forward a little bit. Um, what are you up to these days, Steve?
I tried to get out of my vow of poverty by working in sports, but it just didn't work out. I ended up, actually being a beat writer for Troy for the Montgomery paper. That's the capital in Alabama, if most people don't know that. Yeah, it's not Birmingham, it's Montgomery. And I did that for a while and started writing for websites because, let's face it, nobody reads the paper anymore. When's the last time you picked up a newspaper? And I got lucky enough to where this lady, Evelyn Van Pelt, Evie, call her Ole Miss Evie, she has this site. She's out of Texas. I'm in Florida. Our main photographer's in Memphis. Our tech guy's in just outside of Nashville. Well, we cover Ole Miss. But in this day and age, if as long as you have a modem, you're good to go. So I've been doing this. Ooh, I guess this will be like my seventh year with her. I just covered Ole Miss sports. So yeah, Matt Luke was coaching when I first started, and the first thing I ever did was a softball feature. Softball team had gone to Honolulu for a tournament. Now they didn't take me, so I mean, come on, what are y'all thinking? But I wrote a feature on it, and including what they did while they were on the islands, and I even looked up the fact that I think it was 1,107 Mississippians had died on the USS Arizona, and
Wow.
I mean, she just like, yes, you're hired, and I've been with her ever since. And this will be on September 6th. I will be in Nashville for the Ole Miss Louisville game at Nissan Stadium, and this will start my 38th season typing about young men in tight pants running around hitting each other.
We're going to talk about football in a little bit because I know that SEC football is has dominated the offseason conversation.
Well,
Uh,
it dominates down here anyway. If we walk down the street right now, I guarantee you, if you ask somebody who does Ole Miss play their first game, 9 out of 10 would say they're playing Louisville and Nashville. Ask them who's in Game 3 of the NBA Finals. They're like, the NBA's still going on? So, yeah, we live it down here 24/7, 365.
well, let's get back to that in a second though, because the other interesting thing that happened, you and I were originally going to talk last week, and then I said, why don't we push the schedule just a little bit? We'll see if the baseball gods will play along, and they did. So this weekend, qualifying for Omaha, qualifying for the College World Series, Troy defeating Little Rock, which used to be the University of Arkansas at Little Rock, but now they just dropped the UA part. Defeating Little Rock 2-0. So they move on to Omaha. And then Ole Miss got by Auburn, and so they'll move on to Omaha. So I know the rest of the field isn't set. It could be mostly SEC teams. There's a West
Could be up to
Virginia.
5.
Yeah, there's a West Virginia there and a North Carolina from
And they're on the
outside.
left side of the bracket. If things work out right, the right side of the bracket's going to be all SEC.
I noticed that because Oklahoma is up a game
Oklahoma's got
and
Kansas. St. John's is playing at Bama, and they're both down after weather. So
weather
they'll play in
delays.
about an hour.
Yeah, and we'll have to check the weather in Omaha coming this week because it's gonna be interesting. But give us kind of the top line story first of all on how Troy built a baseball program and got to Omaha.
Well, they just built it. They won 2 Division II national championships back to back, 86 and 87. In fact, 86, Troy won football and baseball national championship the same year. But when I met you, we had just had to bump up to Division I. And I think more than any other sport, baseball is the toughest one to do that too, because I think D2 has now, 14 scholarships they can divvy up between 30 guys. So it's tough to bring those guys with you. So it takes you a little longer in baseball. But Troy did it this year simply by playing the toughest schedule in the country. They went and won at Georgia. They beat Alabama. They beat Southern Mississippi. All 3 of those hosted regionals. That doesn't hurt you. And then when you go to regionals and you beat Miami, and then you beat Florida back to back at their place. I'm not sure who it was. I think it was said an anonymous coach said, "Don't call these guys Cinderella, because all they do is get you out and score runs."
And they won both of their games. They were not close, right? In the super
Yep.
regional,
No,
like
well, one
12-2.
was 7-2, and one was I think 11-2 or 12-2.
Okay. So
And that place, that's you've been by that field, Dave. It's not it's in a finite little piece of property. You're not going to be able to spread out much. It only holds. They say the holds 2,000. Yeah, I want to see the fire marshal confirm that. Yesterday they had over 7,000 in the stands beyond left field. It's a transparent fence. So you got people sitting there with their lawn chairs in the city of Gulf Shores, Alabama, just down the road from me on the Gulf of Mexico. They shipped 2 sections of bleachers up to Troy because Troy didn't have any.
oh, that's sweet.
And so they said, "Hey, come on, man. If you can come get them, you can have them." And a kid who was in college when I worked there, Jason Reeves, is now the mayor of Troy. And his dad grew up down here in Pensacola, went to high school with my sister, and basically grew up at my house.
Okay.
And he ended up being chief of police. And well, that's a story for another time. And, we don't have a large audience. But Jason said, "We're sending trucks now." And he called Wiley Sanders, I guess, the trucking company. He's like, "You got 2 flatbeds?
Nice.
Go down to Gulf Shores and come right back." And they said, "Sure." And apparently the city of Montgomery had offered Troy the use of their minor league stadium And Jason said, "Are you kidding me? No, this is coming to Troy. We want all that to happen in Troy." And not only do they have all those people in the stands, I mean, there's only 18,000 people in the town. So
That's
almost
amazing.
half of them were there. There were 13 restaurants that had watch parties.
That's awesome.
Well, when I was there and when you visited, Dave, if you took away McDonald's and Crow's Chicken, we didn't have 13 restaurants. So Troy's grown up a little bit, and they even opened the football stadium where people could get up in the nosebleed seats and lean over the rail and see the baseball field, which was cool. And they had the game on the jumbotron there. They brought jumbotrons outside to the left field patio type thing. So I mean, it was just a fantastic atmosphere. I mean, just happy for Troy. Forget the baseball team. Happy for the city of Troy. They deserve something like that.
So they'll probably travel pretty well to Omaha, you would think.
I know that Tim McGee will be there. A friend of mine, when I was writing for the Advertiser, he was their super fan, and he had been to something crazy like 35 straight road uh, football games. And that year, Troy played at Kansas State, at Minnesota, at Nebraska, at Virginia, and the last game was at Utah State.
Okay.
And I wrote the story about the super fan who'd been to like 35 games. And I'm covering the game that night in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. By the way, coldest I've ever been in my life, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Just telling
Okay.
you, pack an extra jacket.
All right.
And I'm on the field in the fourth quarter, waiting to go get some interviews, and I hear my name being called out of the stands. And it's the head coach's wife, Janice Blakeney's, Larry Blakeney's wife. And she said, "I saw what you wrote about Tim. You go tell Larry that he gets on that charter flight next week. He's going to Utah State." Now he's been to like 200 consecutive games. So Tim's going to be there. Trust me.
Tim will be there. Cool. Um, and then the other, you're an Ole Miss. Well, you cover Ole Miss. You're an Ole Miss
I
alum.
went to Ole Miss.
So
Howdy, howdy.
they're back in Omaha.
Yeah, first time since 22 when they won it all. And a couple of little things. I'm not sure if I sent this to you or not, but in 22 when they won it all, they lost the first game in the SEC championship. Had to go to Miami for the regionals. Had weather delays down there, but still swept through. Then had to go to an rival school. Had to go to Southern Miss. Beat them 2 times. Then went to Omaha. This year, first game in the SEC tournament, lose to Missouri. Then they have to go to Lincoln, where they had weather delays, and they swept through it. Then they had to go to Auburn, a rival, beat them 2 in a row. Little similarity there. So, yeah.
And there is still a possibility that it could be, well, it could be 5 SEC teams in Omaha.
Yes.
We'll see after today. There's
It'll
also
be
the
4 in one
possibility,
bracket and Ole Miss in the other.
and then you could have Troy against Alabama in a final.
Or actually, after the first game, if Ole Miss and Troy both lose or both win, Ole Miss and Troy play.
Yeah.
So that's, that one I'm just going to have to put the blinders on and just probably not watch it.
But it is one of the most exciting times of year because you've got the Women's College World Series always is.
Congratulations, Texas. They should have won it. I'm proud of them.
Yeah, congratulations to Texas, and also the energy level of these games on the women's side is just it's amazing. It's big fun. I always tune in every year. And
Well, you
then
were the SID at Chicago State.
yes,
I ended up being the women's SID at Troy. So I had volleyball, softball, basketball, tennis, golf, track. So I actually covered more of the women's sports than I did the men's. So, I mean, I love women's sports. My niece, who is now a high school principal in Pensacola, that's the new gray hair. She played in college at Stetson,
oh nice
but
the headers.
she also went to Gulf Coast Community College and pitched them to a national championship game. I've always loved women's athletics.
Yeah, it's been, and the women's World Series was great to watch. Now we've got the men's turn, and it starts this coming weekend. Correct?
Starts Friday,
Starts Friday.
and
Okay.
Omaha will be electric. Rocco's across the street from the ballpark has their Jello Shot Challenge, and the last time Ole Miss was there, they set the record with I think it was 18,777 Jello shots bought.
But did the record get broken by
It, it,
Tennessee?
it got broken the next 2 years,
Okay,
so the
because
record's over 20,000 now.
I
So Ole Miss,
remember.
bring your livers, Ole Miss.
Yeah, I remember Clay Travis was part of when Tennessee was there. Was part of the hey, if you want a shot, I'll help you movement, and good for him and them, and
Well,
the last time.
they had stories where businesses in Oxford, in Jackson, in Memphis were calling Rocco's and saying, here's $4,500, buy shots for the house, but put them on the Ole Miss board.
So always competitive in the SEC. Um,
Just means more, doesn't it?
it, it means well. Speaking of meaning more, let's talk a little bit about football because and I mentioned this I think on my chat with Lauren Beasley. I've got a son at the University of Memphis. We were out to breakfast. I went down to visit him in April. We're out for breakfast in Memphis on campus, and there were a couple of young men in front of us at the table in front of us, and one of them had on a backwards hat, and it was Ole Miss colors, FULK. So we could all guess what that stood for, but
I think kindergartners can guess that now.
yeah, kindergartners can guess that. I'm guessing that Lane Kiffin is not the most popular guy, but when covering the team as you do, were you surprised at how quickly they moved to Pete Golding, and then how quickly the team adapted in the postseason?
No and no, because I think Keith Carter, the AD, I think he had that was in his toolbox all along. And there's a story going around that Kiffin went to Pete after the Oklahoma game and said, "Are you ready to go to Florida?" Because he thought he was getting that job. And Golden says, "I'm not going anywhere." No. And he basically told the administration, "If you don't want me here as a coach, fine. I'll go sell State Farm insurance. But I ain't leaving Oxford." And I think that's all Keith needed to know. It's like, yeah, this guy's devoted, you know. Kind of like Mike Leach had that line about if you have ham and eggs for breakfast. Yeah, the chicken was devoted because it gave the egg. The ham gave up everything. He's your guy. So I think Pete is the ham. And talking to a couple of guys in Destin with the SEC meetings, Pete's walking around just devil may care attitude, and I'm like, if he was wearing a bathrobe and he was carrying a white Russian, and everybody's like, the dude, yeah, he's the dude from the Big Lebowski. That's Pete, and that's why people gravitate to him. The kids love him. I mean, Keywan Lacey's already said, it's like, I wouldn't go play for anybody but him. And Trinidad won his injunction. And by the way, I saw it came across the wire a little while ago. Brandon Sorsby won his injunction. He is eligible at Texas Tech.
I saw that. I saw that as well. So let's talk about that for a second because you've watched the
Do not
emergence
agree with it.
of gambling as part of the culture, especially the last few years, and then this Sorsby story is just completely bonkers, and he won an injunction, so he'll be able to play this year for Texas Tech. But
Now the NCAA could theoretically they could go ahead and just say, no, we're going to appeal this. they don't have the best track record in court. So
Right.
I don't think they're going to do it. I'm shocked he won, to tell you the truth, because he bet on his own team. And I don't care. If you bet on your own team, even if it's to win, you need to go.
And
The same thing with Pete Rose.
yeah.
Well,
And that seems to be
he bet on the Reds, but he bet on the Reds to win. At what cost, though? Say he puts 10 grand on one ball game, and he's got his ace out there, and it's 1-0 in the sixth. And the ace comes off the field and says, "You know what? My shoulder's really starting to tighten up. I think I need to shut it down." And Pete's like, "Well, my bullpen's not rested, and I got all this money on this one game. You go back out there." Sends him back out there and tears his rotator cuff. This guy's career might be over, so Pete Rose could win one game.
yeah, it's
That's a hypothetical, but still, it could have happened.
well, and that's the thing. I think that I mean that if you wanted to do any sort of moral relativity or whatever, I mean, you could say, well, Pete Rose was older and could have known better. But this Swordsby character was actually part of the team. And it's not a good look
It's insider
for,
trading.
yeah,
He has knowledge that other gamblers don't have,
yeah,
unless he was selling it.
which is that's a whole other, and as we've seen in the NBA with the scandal there, all you need is a little, or the baseball, the pitching scandal, pitching gambling scandal there. These things can get out of control rather quickly, but in Sorsby's case, he admitted to quite a bit of betting on his own team.
Well, he went to his quote rehab, which I don't think you rehab from a gambling addiction. I don't think you rehab from any addiction. I think you get treatment for it. Right behind me is a treatment center for different things here at Pensacola. And I've seen these people, they walk up and down the road, try to get their exercise, but I'll see one and 6 months later see them back again. It's like, okay, well, yeah, there's not a cure. There's just treatment for it. But with Sorsby, I wish the kid would have seen the line in the sand.
Yeah.
I mean, even when he was at Cincinnati, when he said, "Well, I'm going to bet on Cincinnati basketball," you're friends with those guys. You know what's going to happen. And even this would have been 93 or 94 at Troy. Really good football team. In fact, went to the quarterfinals that year, finished 11-2. During the Alabama State game, our quarterback went down. He messed his shoulder up, and we had to play Valdosta State the next week. And the coach just went to the other coaches and said, "Can we beat Valdosta with our number 2? Because if we can, we're going to play him. If not, we're going to have to, probably shoot up Kelvin's shoulder and get him back out there." And said, "No, we can win with the number 2." And they did. I got calls from people all over the country at Sports Information. They were just like, "Is your quarterback going to play? Is your quarterback going to play?" Like, we'll see Saturday. Why do you want to know?
Yeah.
Well, the line has moved to this number. I like that. I'm thinking about putting some money on it. I don't know who's going to play. I'm not the trainer. I'm not the coach. But still, just to know at that level,
Yeah.
people were going to gamble on it. And Sorsby now at Texas Tech, Big 12.
Yeah, it's alarming at the very least, but should be cause for quite a bit of concern at a national
It's
level.
not like he's the only one. I mean,
That may be the other thing that this uncovers is, some things we're better off not knowing. But in this case, if this is the tip of the iceberg, we've got a real problem on our hands, don't we?
Well, I remember Alumni Hall at Troy, Alabama. 1AA team. They're playing, penny ante poker in the dorm. And one guy ends up owing another guy like $12. And it's kind of a big deal when you're in college if you don't have any income coming in. And it's like, man, what would happen if they were doing that out in the public? And all of a sudden you owe 1,200 to somebody.
And it's on these things too that makes it really.
Aren't you glad we didn't have those when we were young?
Well, I have mentioned before that back in when I was in college, there was a time when I was in over my head with gambling and I mean you had to do the work to actually find the guy who knew the bookie, so you could put $10 down on this game or 20 on this game, and I think that was the worst it ever got for me. But I realized that if you put late 80s, early 90s Dave in the 2010s, 2020s, with access to these phones and all of that.
Well, it's not just $10 anymore. It's
that's the other issue, because they get you with a here's a $500 free bet or whatever the heck they're doing. Yeah, if you don't have impulse control, it can turn into a real problem.
Trinidad Chambliss is making north of $5 million this year at Ole Miss in NIL money. And hey, I love you. Hey, you deserve it. Go get that money that you've earned, but be careful with it. And I think the first thing he did was hire a financial advisor,
which is smart. And you hear a lot of that. I love to point at even beyond guys like Shaq, who have done all sorts of business things that are obvious. I like to point to the Junior Bridgmans of the world, who passed away a few months ago, I believe. Jamal Mashburn, guys like this who, as soon as they get in the league, they're like, all right, yeah, this is not the end, and I'm gonna put together a plan. I mean, Jamal Mashburn owns a boatload of Outback steakhouses and car washes and hotels.
The kid who transferred from Ole Miss to Missouri, Austin Simmons, quarterback. He graduated at 17 in high school. He had his degree from Ole Miss at 19. So the kid's kind of, on the ball, and he was getting about $1 million. And his dad said, no, you're not getting $1 million because Uncle Sam's taking this much right now. So-and-so's taking this much right now. So-and-so's taking this much right now. And he put Simmons on an allowance.
Brilliant.
Like, so when these girls come up and say, oh, I really do like that diamond necklace, he can say, I can't afford it. I don't have the money. Because he's only getting, a couple $100 a week to go out to eat or take his offensive line to eat.
Right.
Or something like that. So, I mean, that's something I like about Missouri this year. I think they've got a very mature quarterback who's only a junior. So watch out for Mizzou this year.
You were mentioning, you sent me a note a couple weeks ago when you were at those SEC meetings, and you were mentioning just before we started today that you really like the coach at Missouri and the way he carries himself, and
Eli Drinkwitz. Yeah.
Eli Drinkwitz. So talk to me a little bit about that.
He was just, hey guys, what's up? One of those type things. Kiffin is, very, he tries to come off nonchalant, but no, he's pretty rigid. And, Kirby Smart, same way. He's, you're not going to, you couldn't pry a quote out of him if you wanted one. But you get Drinkwitz, you get the dude at Ole Miss, or you get John Summerall at Florida, who used to be at Troy, by the way. So I've known him for a few years. And John says, like, hey, I coach tackle football. And it's like, we need more of that than CEOs. But Eli, he was just sort of, kick back. Hey, what y'all want to talk about? And he has his little Hilton cup from the lobby where you get your coffee. And the guy asked me, he's like, man, the way he's acting, what do you think he's sipping in that cup? And I said, well, he's at the beach and he's telling the truth. Huh. Could it be like truth serum and vodka? I don't know, but oh, Eli was just, I mean, he was just, hey, brother, how you doing? And it's like, yeah, where are you from? I'm like, I'm from just down the road. I used to live literally the next 3 hours. I used to live in Destin. I used to live right over there. Well, why'd you move, man? Look at this place. Well, coach, either you got all the money in Destin or you got none of the money in Destin. And I definitely didn't have it all. But he's just, I like that guy. Um, I saw a story that had him on a hot seat this year. I don't see it because first he's got so many new players coming in. Um, Ahmad Hardy got shot. His running back, who I think is the best running back in the country. Sorry, Q1 late seed Ole Miss. I think Hardy's a little better. He got shot in the upper leg. We don't know how he's going to return. So you got that going for you, and the fact that people like you. I don't think he's on the hot seat. If anybody's on the hot seat in the SEC, it's Shane Beamer at South Carolina. Sorry, Lauren Beasley. I'm sorry, but he's the one because he's got Lenora Sellers back again, and if he doesn't do it this time, I just got a bad feeling.
Is there anybody that, aside from, I think you alluded to Missouri perhaps surprising this year, is there anybody else in the SEC that might surprise?
Well, I don't think they're going to be a surprise, but I think Texas. I think Texas is better than Georgia, and I mean a lot of people have them 1 and 2 or 1 and 1A, but more people say, well, yeah, Kirby's got this. Well, yeah, if Sark can, bite his tongue every now and then, look at what he's got.
And
All he has to do is call the toss at the beginning of the game and just send everybody out.
and for the uninitiated, Sark had some not so kind comments directed at Ole Miss specifically.
Well, something else in Destin, one of the guys walked up and said, "Oh, you're that POS from Ole Miss." I'm thinking, I don't even know you. He goes, well, everybody else is piling on Ole Miss. I thought I would too. Just, oh, okay, cool. Let's go grab a beer. And well, what Sark said was, if you transfer to Texas, you lose half the credits that you've earned at your other school. But you could transfer to Ole Miss and get a degree in basket weaving. Okay, two thoughts. One, I hope his star quarterback, Eli Manning, went to his office and said, my grandfather, my grandmother, my dad, and my uncle all have degrees from Ole Miss. Are you saying they're stupid? I hope he did that. Don't think he did, but. And the other thing is something Pete said. He's like, well, I thanked him for saying it because now, most of these transfers, they aren't going to Texas to get a degree. They're going to Texas to increase their draft stock. But now they know, well, if I go there, there's a chance I can flunk out. But if I go to Ole Miss, I can take basket weaving and get to the NFL. Pete's like, thank you, Sark. Now those kids are thinking, well, I want to go to Ole Miss. It's an easier school.
Well, and that's the reality that we live in now, and it's unfortunate that's where we are, especially that we're going to cast aspersions at the place that produced Faulkner.
Grisham and
John Grisham.
More Nobel laureates than any other school in the SEC, with the exception of Vanderbilt in Texas. I think it was Wright Thompson, great writer, also out of Oxford. He had a great quote. It's like, yeah, it might be easy to get into Ole Miss. It's tough to stay and graduate from Ole Miss.
And now with folks moving along right and left and chasing the NIL deals and the playing time and trying to your point, trying to increase their draft stock.
Well,
It's
that's something else. I think Troy's the only school in the country that does this. They have a class for this is an academic class in the business school. It's for athletes on how to increase your NIL capability. How do you market yourself? What businesses do you go to? And these kids, I would guess that's the most popular class in the business department right now. Because I'm going to go learn how to, you know, go to a marketing class and say, sell me this pen. And you have to come up with a sales spiel or whatever. These kids are thinking, I'm going to this class. And if I learn something, I can go out to this business in Troy this afternoon and sell myself and get money. So, good for Troy on that one. I wish every other school in the country had that.
it's
And the other thing
completely
about Troy, by the way, real quick, got to brag on them a little bit. The only non-power four school to A, go to a bowl game, B, go to March Madness, and C, make the NCAA tournament. And now they made it to the World Series. Been doing some research. I'm kind of, a research nerd kind of guy. I can't find another non-power four that finished in the final four of the football and went to the World Series in baseball. I can't find any school. Alabama, Notre Dame, anybody. I can't find anybody that's done it. Troy did it this year. And
um
you didn't even know that when you visited, did you?
no, I did not. I did not know the potential that was in.
Did you even know that the basketball game you worked, it was Sartain Hall? Did you know that's the site of a historic event in college basketball?
Um, I may have a guess, but I'm going to let you tell the viewers what
Troy
happened.
State in January 12th, 1992, because I was on the stat crew, beat DeVry University 258 to 141 in basketball. Only team to ever score more than 200 points in a game.
What
And
was
you
it?
were sitting in that arena, Dave.
I was sitting in that arena, but I was
If you
not
want to
there
call it
for.
an arena, it's more like a barn.
Yeah, I was not there for that game. But what was it like being on the stat crew for that game? Because
Busy.
that's 399 points.
399.
Yeah,
Well, you met my boss, Tom Enzi,
right.
and my roommate Eric McCool was actually keeping the official book on the other side, and I was spotting for both shot charts. This is before we had computerized stuff. So I was having to tell this person shot so and so, miss, rebound, then go over this, make sure this guy had it, and in basketball, the stat sheet has to balance. So for every shot that's taken, you have to have a point, a rebound, a defensive rebound, an offensive rebound, or a team rebound. You can't be off. We balanced the entire time. So I was proud of that. But the weird thing is, Troy didn't score for like the first 4 minutes of the game. They could throw it the Gulf of Mexico over here. Nothing was going in. And Tom was sitting next to me, and he's like, "Yeah, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do this." Then we look up, 15 minutes later, and it's halftime, and we got 123 on the board. And I'm like, "What do you think?" He says, "We're doing this. We're doing." And he started doing starting to count records and do the release for all the records we're about to break. And then in the second half, came and scored 135. So it's like, yeah.
Did the team go into the game saying we're gonna this
Yeah.
is our plan? So they said we're gonna break a bunch of records tonight and sprint all down the court and
But
put
the
up
year
258 points.
before that, before I even got to Troy, I was working at West Florida and they played DeVry and he scored 187.
Okay.
And it's like, man, if we didn't blow those easy shots, we'd have scored 200. And they said, next year we're going to do it. And so it was kind of a plan. It's like, yeah, we're going to do it. And the DeVry kids, they only brought 8 kids with them to play. But the top scorer in that game, by the way, played for DeVry, didn't play for Troy.
How
Kid
many
named
he put?
Dartez Daniel scored, I think, 43, which was really, really cool for him. But the year before, when he scored 187, Don Maestri was coach at Troy, and he told the DeVry coach, he's like, once we get a comfortable enough lead, we're gonna sit down everybody. He goes, no, score as much as you can, because that's what we're gonna do. And he's like, all right, game on, let's go. And they, like I said, went out and did 187. And one of the coolest things is one of the fraternities had put a sign up on the wall in Sartain Hall that said, go for 200. At halftime, they sent 2 pledges back to the fraternity house to get a can of like Krylon spray paint. And they crossed out 200, put 250. And, well, you've been at Sartain Hall. It only holds about 2,000 people. To this day, I've probably met about 7,000 people who swear they were there.
Yeah, it's the
Like,
Wilt
no,
Chamberlain
no,
Hershey game. Yeah.
it's when Troy went to LSU, before they went and beat them, they had like a 30-point lead in the third quarter and blew it. But I still run LSU people. Oh, yeah, I was there for the entire comeback. No, you weren't. You were in the parking lot. At least I can say it was there.
There you go. Yeah, you
And
got this.
I wrote a release. This is one of my favorite stories. I wrote a release detailing all the records, and I had my, for more information, how you do that on top. I had my name and my extension number. And that season actually, Troy ended up going to the Elite Eight, which is the Division II Final Four. So they went up to Springfield, Massachusetts to play. That's where the Hall of Fame is. Well, the Hall of Fame put an exhibit up, and it had a DeVry jersey, a Troy jersey, one of the nets, a ball, and some pictures up. But then it had the 2 releases, one of the game story, one of all the records that I wrote. And one of the players came back after, being in the Elite Eight and says, hey, man, you're in the Hall of Fame. I'm
That's
like,
awesome.
I can't dribble and I can't shoot, but I'm in the Basketball Hall of Fame. Love it. I'm also in the National Bobblehead Hall of Fame. I'm a voter.
You're a voter.
For $25, you can be too.
Okay. What's the craziest bobblehead related story?
Juice Kiffin, the dog, Lane Kiffin's dog.
Yeah.
He has the most popular bobblehead at Ole Miss than any player. I mean, more than Eli, more than Archie, more than Chucky Mullins, more than DK Metcalf. No, everybody wants Juice Kiffin, the dog bobblehead. That's what they want. And I'm not sure if he actually moved to Baton Rouge, by the way. He might still be in Oxford.
So Lane Kiffin may have left his dog in Oxford.
He may have, and I don't think anybody would mind because Juice is very, very popular in Oxford. Coach Yo, the women's basketball coach, I was talking to her, and by the way, by far my favorite coach I've ever interviewed in my life, Coach Yo. She's from the Bahamas, lives in Mississippi. And I asked her, well, where do you find good jerk chicken? And she just laughed and said, you're my favorite now. I'm always talking to you. But she told me that when recruits come to campus in the fall, before basketball season, they don't want to meet Lane Kiffin. They don't want to meet the chancellor. They don't want to meet the AD. They want to meet Juice the dog.
That's awesome.
So I hope Juice stayed.
Any other, if you looked into your crystal ball and storylines that we should be looking for college football this fall?
Well, Ole Miss related, you got 3 trap games. So, I mean, I've seen these quote pundits get upset that Ole Miss is preseason under 14. Well, yeah, I kind of like it down there, so we're sort of under the radar. But other ones are like, hey, we got the best quarterback in the country. Really? You do? Chambliss is better than this guy and this guy and this guy? You sure? We got the best running back in the country. Really? Keywan Lacey's better than this guy, this guy, and this guy? And, Lucas Carnero, you have the best kicker in the country. Really? He's better than the guy at Oklahoma that kicks in Daisy Duke shorts? You sure? So, the 3 lookout games, one of them's right off the bat. It's Louisville. First game, it's in Nashville. I'll be there, so that'll kick off my 38th year of doing typing about this stuff. So I'll be there for that one. But after the LSU game, you got to go to Florida. And I got bad news. John Summerall, he actually has a team that could play with you. And then they also have Auburn this year. And that's between Texas and Georgia. Come here. Hold on. Say hi.
Oh, hello.
Wait a minute.
Oh,
Hello.
That's Trinity, my roommate.
Okay.
She just came in from work.
All right. Glorious.
So I just want to give her a little screen time.
Beautiful. She'll be famous very shortly.
Well, golly, you're out of Chicago, man. Come on. Everybody must watch you. And, I do have a little Chicago tentacle to me. Just this morning, I was listening to some John Prine. I was listening to some Steve Goodman, both famous Chicagoans. I think I told you a lot of Ole Miss players end up playing for the White Sox. Tim Huckle came up last year, hit a home run. Jacob Gonzalez just got called up. I think he hit his first home run in the major leagues on Saturday.
He hit the home run when they were talking about the wand. Have you seen that?
No, I didn't see that because, for some reason, my MLB package ain't the best in the world. So
the story, it was Tom McCarthy and John Kruk were doing the game for the Phillies. They're playing in Philadelphia. White Sox are playing in Philadelphia. And as they're making fun of this magic wand that they have on the sidelines that supposedly conjures up home runs, he hit his first homer into the second deck in Philly, and the announcers were like, well, I guess this guy might be for real, and also maybe we won't make fun of this magic wand thing that they're talking about. So that was
he had,
making the rounds.
In 22, he was the shortstop at Ole Miss in the World Series. And in the bottom of the 9th inning, they have 2 outs. He's talking about, it's like, I started tearing up. And I thought, I better wipe my eyes because they might hit me the ball. And I'm not going to be the reason that we lose this game. It's like, I just love the way that the kid could just, bring himself back to reality. But he, in the White Sox organization, the AA team is in Birmingham. Now, that's the Southern League. I used to work in the Southern League in Mobile. That team's gone. They're now the Rocket City Trash Pandas.
Of course.
Any idea what Rocket City is?
That's Huntsville, right?
There you go. Look at the big brain on Dave. They're up there, and Birmingham still, Pensacola has a team now, Blue Wahoo. But they still play the Birmingham affiliate. And so in the last 2 years, I've been able to interview Tim Elko, Jacob Gonzalez. Oh, golly. There's a kid who was playing for Pensacola last year. I got to interview him. And in 2 weeks, Birmingham comes down. They have Calvin Harris, who is from Ole Miss. So I'm going to get the Grand Slam. I'll get 4 of them.
And I did see that, I think it was Steve Stone, who pitched for both White Sox and Cubs, and then also broadcast for both. Yeah. But he's been with the White Sox since 2008 as a broadcaster. He says that this is...
I thought he'd been there longer than that.
Well, he and Chip Carey left the Cubs at around the same time, or at the same time. They both had issues with previous management. This was before the the Ricketts family took over. But Steve Stone's point was that this might be the strongest farm system he has seen with the White Sox since he's been covering them for sure.
And you also have TJ McCants from Ole Miss, who's from Pensacola. He's in single A ball. I think he's about to get called up to Birmingham because he's like hitting on fire. And his mother, Felicia. If you ever have you seen the documentary about Ole Miss in the World Series where he finds out during the season his mom's dying and probably will not be able to see out the season. But she makes it to Omaha and he hits the home run to start the back to back to back. And I'm not sure who did the documentary, but thank you, whoever you are. And I've got chill bumps now just thinking of it. There's a shot of him running up the stands, hugging his mother.
That's awesome.
Felicia, when I worked at the University of West Florida, was a center on our basketball team. How old am I, Dave?
Yeah, I asked that question of myself a lot too. So I guess to wrap this up, where can we find your work? Give a plug for what you're working on and where it is.
It's therebelwalk, all one word, .com. At this point in life, I'll say it. I've done 62 rounds around the sun. So I'm kind of more of a. Remember when we were younger and we'd be in a room with sports writers and it'd be the old guys, we'd listen to them?
Yeah.
I'm that guy now.
You're that guy now.
So I'm more of a, hey guys, y'all need to start looking at this. Look at this. Have you thought about writing about this? But I still do stuff. I think I sent you a couple of links to some stuff I've done, and well, I forgot who it was that told me now. Somebody called me and just said, "You're not a writer, you're a storyteller." And I'm like, well, that's what we did in my generation. We told stories, and I'm trying to get these young ones. We got like 4 or 5 in Oxford who will actually go and do the legwork, so I don't have to do it anymore. I just kind of point them in the right direction. And what my boss asked me a few years ago was, how do you finish your game stories so quickly? Well, I write about the game during the game. Then all I really have to do is put in the final score and some quotes. And Ole Miss Evie's like, can you tell these kids the same thing? I mean, they get done, they get quotes. And, I don't blame them at all. I was 21 at Ole Miss too. And I mean, they want to go out to the Hoka. They want to go out to the library. I mean, right. They don't want to sit there and write a story. We'll do that tomorrow, man. So I'm just trying to point the kids in the right direction. But every now and then, when I have an idea, I'll stick it in there. Like, I'm sure if Troy and Ole Miss play in the series, I'm sure Ole Miss Evie's going to take a cattle prod to me to make sure I write something. And I did it a few years ago. John Summerall's first game, by the way, at Ole Miss, or at Troy, was at Ole Miss. And I wrote a column about, this is kind of tough, but, I'm just going to root for a good game. And I heard from people I have not heard from 40 years ago saying, how did you get smart? I didn't. I just sort of know my subject matter pretty well.
And we'll
you do, Dave.
Thank you. Well, we'll put some links below this when it's up on the channel. Steve Barnes, a pleasure reconnecting with you a few months back and swapping some more stories. And thanks for spending your time today. I'll get down there at some point. At some point. Yeah.
Show you some local places that you would like, better than the Porch in Troy, Alabama, even.
The Porch in Troy, Alabama is a great way to Stop
Hey,
this
I
interview.
indoctrinated you well, Detroit. That's a story for
Right for another day. Steve
another
Barnes,
day that it's not PG-13.
there you go. We're going to have to stop it there. Steve, thanks so much.
All right, man. Love you like fried chicken, dude.